All right. Hello there, everyone. Today we're going to be doing something a little different. So, today I have here with me Scott Johnson.
Hello.
He is the number one Star Wars, The Shadows of the Empire Evolution fan.
Absolutely.
Guri is his favorite character. Um,
Stevan.
Sivan. Oh,
Hmm.
yes, of course. I
Yep.
forgot. Why is he your favorite character?
He?
Sorry, she.
I
It's been
think it's a she. Um,
okay.
I just think the background of a specific panel with a certain Rhodian that's just framed perfectly.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I don't have it on here, but maybe we'll review it someday. I can show you
Oh, yes.
exactly what I'm talking about. But whoever drew that, genius. I mean, chef's kiss to that. That was one of the best maybe one of the best panels in Star Wars Dark Horse comic history.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
all of it.
Mhm.
Nice. All
Yeah.
right.
And
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, go ahead. I'm done.
Okay. So, in the past few weeks, I started collecting some more books as they went, as I saw some sales. There were a couple of good deals. Let's see. I had some friends. I had a friend that sold some books. Then I would see them in Facebook groups. Um, and then I even went to a Books a Million, and they had Expanded Universe. And so we're gonna go through that. Uh,
Show and tell.
all right. I'm gonna make this screen big. No, not that one. I'm gonna figure this out. Oh, you're tiny. Here
All
we
right.
go. Took a while. All right. So, um, I have a friend that is a teacher, and so she was, I think, changing grades of where she was. So like she was in like fourth grade or third grade or something, and so now she's gonna do a lower grade, and so she started selling a lot of her chapter books, and so I saw a lot of them on the list, and I mean, there weren't things I was interested, but there was a part of me that was like, there's got to be something Star Wars here. Lucky enough, there was. Uh, so she had The Last of the Jedi. Okay.
Wow.
So I have, let's see, I think I have like 8 of them already, but like these are like I feel like they were barely read. They've got
Hmm.
some
And these
they
were in a school classroom.
classroom.
So how come they aren't read?
I don't
Do
know.
kids not read these days?
There's a little card in it, and it does have that the kids like checked it out. So I think that whether it was part of the library or that's just how the system that she had. So they did read it, um, but they
Maybe they're
were
just
the
really
first
careful with it.
the first one looks very careful with. The rest of them look really good, but there's just a bit more. So like, it was the whole series she was selling. And so we've got, I'm covering it up because it has the uh, her name and stuff on it. So that's going to be fun to get that off. But it had the complete Last of the Jedi series.
Hmm.
And so,
Those are in good shape.
yeah.
I heard rubbing alcohol can sometimes take off the price stickers and various other stickers, so might be able to
Sorry.
work.
I had a baby monitor on. Jaina was sleeping and Lydia wasn't here yet. And so I had that on. But got all these. Be able to update the shelf.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
These are all fun covers.
Yep.
And then Underworld. I don't know what number that one is.
I
Number
like
3.
I like that one. I think that's my favorite cover.
Okay. That's a Dexter Jettster on it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. So moving on to the Facebook. Actually, no, I'll get the Books a Million stuff out of the way. So we went somewhere for my daughter's birthday, and they had a Books a Million right by the restaurant. Um, and so we went in there, and I found this.
Oh, Marvel 108.
Yep, but it's not just 108. It's the Crimson Forever trade paperback.
Hmm.
And so
Was it on clearance?
It was on clearance.
Nice.
And so I think I already have one, but it's always good to have an extra one.
I did see those at on the clearance rack at Books a Million, my local one, a couple months ago.
Okay, then it's probably that batch, but it collects all of the. Why am I spacing on his name?
Is the Valence?
Valence, yeah, all the Valence arcs, and then the Crimson Forever, and then Forever Crimson 108. And so I might have to do a reread of that.
Yeah, the other thing I like about that is I think it showcases on the last couple pages all of the variant covers for 108 as well. So it's a good way to collect them all if you don't have them individually.
Yes, it does. And then it also has, I think, a little bit of the history of it, or like little bits and pieces here.
Nice, yeah,
which I like. I like stuff like that. Or like of these.
Mm-hmm. I think it was collected in the omnibus or the most recent Marvel comic, whatever Marvel's doing with their omnibus hardcovers now.
Oh, but, was it?
Yeah. So there's a couple ways you could get 108 now, but can't beat that on clearance for $6-7, whatever it was.
Which it retailed, and I think I bought it for that. About $20 was what it was back when it came out. This, I don't know. Have you read much or any Marvel comics, like aside from Star Wars?
No.
Okay. So there's the Submariner comic book. I saw this as Marvel artwork looked pretty good. I know it's not Star Wars, but this rang in. It says it's $5 in the clearance. It rang in for 99 cents. And I looked at the lady and I was like, is that right? And she said, that's what came up when I scanned it. So you can have it for that. And I was like, sweet. So almost a free book. Let's see.
Yeah.
We've got, I had a bundle that I found on Facebook Marketplace. I don't remember exactly. This might have been the whole thing, but it was like maybe $15 or something. Some of the things I already had, some of them I didn't. But we have, of course, the classic paperback.
Mm-hmm.
And then it had the Return of the Jedi comic adaptation.
Nice.
And then they had, let's see, they don't have them numbered. I think it's 1, 2, and 3 of the classic Star Wars, which is the newspaper strips. Is that right?
I believe so, yes. Is that Gambler's World? What story is that? It should say it at the inside cover.
It says Volume 1.
So there's like Way of the Wookiee. There's Escape to Hoth. Trying to remember
this one's just blank. I think this is with the Bounty Hunter from Ormentel.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So that's Volume 1. I think I already had this one, but they had the other ones, which was the Rebel Storm.
Nice.
Number 2. And then number 3, the Hoth Escape. Or cool. Escape to Hoth, I mean.
Yeah.
And so this is the one when they end up finding and going to Hoth. Is that correct?
I think it's just before. It's the prelude to.
Yes, yes, yes.
Luke actually finds out that's a good location for a rebel base.
And then I already had this one, but the Dark Lords of the Sith trade paperback.
Looks like it's in real good shape too.
Yes, it looks like it was barely touched. Like,
it's a good deal. $25, you said, for all that?
I think so. For all that, I think. Or maybe, yeah, I think so. But then this was one of the reasons I got it was the Tales of the Jedi, the collection. And this collects, let's see, does this collect Freedon Nad Uprising?
I think it does, yeah. The one that says collection does.
Actually, it doesn't.
So it's just Beast Wars of Onderon and Saga of Nomi Sunrider, I think it's the other one.
Yeah.
Got Matt Wilkins in the chat. Look at that nice
Hello
collection.
there. Thank you. So that was kind of the one that I was like, all right, I need to get this because I've got, I think all of them except Redemption now. All right. So I can't remember how these were bundled together, but going back to the Marvel comics, I was able to pick this up.
Nice. Is that 6 or 7?
This is 5.
5. All right.
And so this one has the Nagai and
Tafor.
Yeah. And then the Lumaya story. And did it say final issue? Yeah, the last issue's on this. But it's been a while since, I think it's been like a year or two since I've read the Marvel series. But yeah, I've got this, which
leads directly into 108.
Yes, it does. Which I'll come back to this in a second. I'm trying to collect a lot of the trade paperbacks. And so one of them that I didn't have was the Star Wars Underworld. This one. Let's see that. It's pretty good condition. It looks like it's been read a few times.
Yeah, the art's kind of goofy in that story, but it is a good story because it actually ties into A.C. Crispin's trilogy.
Ooh, is this before or after that, or during?
It's kind of during.
Okay, then I might have to reread this whenever I reread those books, because I think I read them. I read the Han Solo books whenever Solo was coming out, or a little before, because I didn't want, I guess, the movie to trump my view of that thing. And then
Bria Theron,
Theron.
Han's girlfriend, is in that comic.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I think I knew that. Here was another one that I think this came with Underworld. Or maybe Underworld came with the Marvel one. I can't remember. But Empire, Volume 4.
Yeah, that was... I mean, the art's pretty good in that, but the story isn't that great. In the middle of Empire got good at the very, very end. I think issue or trade paperback 6 and 7.
Okay.
Leading into Rebellion. Those stories are pretty good.
I enjoyed Rebellion a bit more than Empire. I don't know if that's just me.
Empire was kind of hit or miss. Like, it started off with that Grand Moff that went after Vader, tried to assassinate the Emperor or something like that. Wasn't a very good story. They struggled to find their footing, I think. And then eventually they got to the Jabim arc, which tied back into the Republic comics.
Mm-hmm.
And that is when they first started getting good. And then there was something about the rebel fleet, and there was like a guy that was really good at math, and like he had the algorithm to where the rebel fleet would rendezvous or something. It turned out he was an Imperial sleeper cell or something, and that tied into Rebellion. That arc was pretty
Yeah.
good.
I remember that one. Rebellion I actually read before Empire, because, well, whenever I was a kid, I think my first convention I went to, I got the double-sided issue number 0 of KOTOR and Rebellion. And so I think I had already finished KOTOR, and I was like, oh, it had this double side one that I remember. Let me read this. And so I ended up reading that and then kept going through. And then I realized, oh, there was something before this. But yeah.
Yeah. Vector tied in with the Old Republic.
Yes.
Or I think, was it Dark Times or the Old Republic? I forget.
So Vector did Old Republic. I think it did Dark Times.
Dark Times, Rebellion, and then Legacy.
Legacy, yeah.
Yeah. The middle two didn't make a whole lot of sense. It was just like, oh yeah, this happened, and we went out of our way to tie it into Rebellion and Dark Times, but it didn't really affect the story that much.
I didn't like the Rebellion Vector story because it just kills off all these characters and then it ends.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, what? I liked the series. And so, yeah.
Yeah, that was into the lead up when it became evident that Dark Horse was losing their license and they had to tie up all of their storylines.
Yeah.
I think they were going to do Rebel Heist and like, was it Son of Dathomir or something?
Yeah.
They wanted to put all their eggs in just doing those last couple of stories. And it was the Star Wars that they were going to put out too, which was not canon, but they devoted resources away to what they were doing to complete those projects. And they probably shouldn't have, but
yeah. I read not the Star Wars. I read the Brian Wood Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Have you read the Star Wars?
I did. I don't really remember anything about it.
I've tried to read it a few times.
Yeah, it didn't adapt very well to comic form, I think.
Yeah.
It worked better in like George Lucas's conceptual framework, like his ideas. If he were to put together a film, maybe that would have worked, but I don't think comic form was the right format for that.
There was a reason why he didn't make that movie, I guess.
Yeah. Well, it was like it was the early draft of Star Wars.
Yeah.
Which he made changes to, and there's a reason he made those changes, because he obviously had a successful film. The end result was a lot better, but right. I guess they just wanted to bank off of Star Wars because they were trying to bring in an audience that wasn't necessarily a big expanded universe fan, but just like Star Wars. When they heard like, oh, it's the concept art for Star Wars, they thought they could get other people to buy their comics. And
yeah,
I don't know if it worked out well, but it didn't seem like it did.
Do you think after KOTOR they just kind of tried to do what you're saying, like they tried to do that more, try to get more people to come in? Or was it like after the prequels, maybe?
They said something, I forget exactly when it was, but they said we're not going to do 50 issues like what Legacy and Knights of the Old Republic were. But those were successful series. So I don't see why you would do something different than what was successful. But then they went on to Brian Wood, and they were almost trying to revamp the series. And Del Rey was kind of doing that as well with the Empire and Rebellion novel series, the Razor's Edge, and what was the
Honor
other one?
Among Thieves.
Yeah.
And then Heir to the Jedi.
Yeah, which that turned out to be a new canon book. Yeah. I think Honor Among Thieves was a good book, but it doesn't really relate to the EU in any way.
Right.
Um, so I mean that's one way to approach it, but I don't think it had to be like one or the other. I think they could have done both. I think they could have made certain stories that were accessible, but then keep the longer ongoing series going as well. Because even Brian Wood series went like 20 some odd issues, I think.
It did.
So by the time the third or the fourth trade paperback came out, if you weren't following the series, you'd kind of have a hard time following that too. So
yeah.
it kind of defeats the purpose of what they were trying to go for to begin with.
Didn't Randy Stradley say that he wanted to rely on miniseries to get those number ones, like the Darth Vader minis and the different ones there? Did I
Like
hear that?
the Darth Vader and the Ghost Prison and Cry
Yeah.
of Shadows and all that stuff. Well, Darth Vader sold very well, so maybe that's what they were trying to do. But he said specifically like he wasn't going to do 50 issue series anymore,
Okay.
which like I said is kind of strange because the 50 issue series were very successful.
Yeah.
Maybe except for Dark Times. Dark Times was a little, they struggled to figure out what they were doing. I think the idea was to use Quinlan Voss because they had him escape Order 66 and survive that whole ordeal.
Yeah.
And I think there was an idea that they were going to use him for something. But I don't know if George Lucas had other plans and made him off limits because he was going to be in Underworld.
That's what I was
A
going to say.
lot of people speculate that. I mean, we heard from the last Legends Con that Kathleen Kennedy had some sort of cardboard cutout of Das Janier, who's the main character in Dark Times, in her office. So maybe there were plans to do something even before the buyout with those characters, Quinlan Voss and Das Janier. But who knows? We could
that would
only
have been
speculate.
an interesting thing if they teamed them both up, because they both kind of had this like they disappeared. There wasn't like they got killed by Vader or whatever.
That whole Dark Times era is really ripe for storytelling. Yeah. And it felt like the comic Dark Times fell short when you compare that to something like the West End Games story ideas. I mean, they're just short stories and vignettes, but they have a lot of ideas on what to do with Jedi that escaped the Jedi Purge, Order 66. And a lot of fun adventures that they could have done. I think it was a wide open era that you could have done pretty much anything with.
I think that's why the new canon is so heavily focused in that era. Because I mean, there's 3 TV shows in that era. So many novels. I mean, there's 2 movies. They really let it out there. I'm surprised that Marvel hasn't done a series during that. I mean, there's a few books here and there, but
you have 19 years to work with there, so
right. Yeah,
there's a lot of time.
It would have been interesting.
Anything together,
right? It would have been interesting if they did release Underworld, like the scripts or something like that. But yeah, I've got a few more. This was at a book fair. It's not Star Wars, but it's a Stranger Things comic book. I'm a big fan of the show, and so I'm trying to, once I get done with Star Wars, I'm trying to experiment with other like expanded universes of things. And so that was like $3, and I'm like, hey.
Did you read it yet? Did you tell if it's canon to the TV show?
I don't think. I feel like big studios don't care about canon anymore. So obviously. But the storyline it's like one of the main characters goes to camp in between seasons. And it gets referenced constantly, and so this is like that event. And so he goes to science camp or whatever, and I'm sure he has supernatural things happen there. And so I'm like, hey, I'll give it a chance. Because I think I read another one which followed one of the characters that went missing during the events of one of the seasons. And I liked it. It was light snack, you know.
Mhm.
Have you seen the Stranger Things
No.
shows? No. All right. This was actually something from my daughter. Um, I don't remember exactly. I guess she had like they had like a book sale. Maybe it was the book fair. I don't know, but yeah, it's Star Wars. Dot to dot. She got it and she's like, I got this for you, and I was like, oh my goodness.
So connect the dots.
Yes, but it's there's 1,000 dots per page. I don't even know if you can see that.
Hold it up. Wow. It's
Like,
like it's like tracing the galaxy.
exactly, like no joke. It's wild. But yeah, she gave that to me today, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna talk about this on here. All right, so this was like this next bundle here that I got was kind of the reason that I wanted to, you know, well, I guess it was just this pile of new books that I had that made me go, oh, hey, I want this to do this stream and stuff. But first off, there was a bundle. They had a book for like $90 that goes for like 150 or sometimes even 200.
Mm-hmm.
Sadly, they sold it, and so I have to go and look for it because I got number 2 and 3 of it. But they had a pretty good deal on these.
Oh, nice. What's that?
The Marvel Omnibus hardcover.
Okay, 1977 run.
Yes, the 1977 run. And so it completely made my purchase of that of this one pointless. So I might sell it or might just hold on to it because those have been going up in value. Sorry. So this one collects. This is number 2, and so number 1 is like stupid expensive. And this one collects 55 through 78 and annual 2. I think Brendan has a complete set of these. But they're sealed.
I remember when those were on clearance. Yeah,
really?
I remember. They didn't have a big demand on them at first because they've been reprinted so many times. Dark Horse printed it twice in the early 2000s, and then with the omnibus, and then they printed it shortly after. I think it was the first hardcover omnibus that Marvel did when they first started doing them. So
it was because now they do all the Dark Horse ones, which this will look really nice next to my. I have the Empire Volume 1. This was already in my collection. This one I think I got kind of cheap. And then for like dirt cheap, I got these ones. So like the Droids and Ewoks, that there was like no demand for this.
So the one you're holding in your left hand, that is the valuable one because that has the 2 annuals left.
This one?
Yes, that one.
Oh, is it now?
Yeah, it has annual 1 and 2.
Oh, of a droids?
Of Ewoks. Ewoks.
Okay.
There's a Ewok Halloween story.
Oh, yes.
So prior to that printing, that annual was almost impossible to get.
I gotcha.
So that's like, I consider that Wild Space number 3, technically. Because there's nowhere else. I mean, maybe Marvel's reprinted it in one of their new super duper omnibuses, but for
So
a while, that was the
they
only way to get it.
okay, interesting. So this one has it, and then so does the UK collection. I think they have the Halloween one too.
Hmm.
Yeah, that one.
Hmm. So I guess it is. I don't know why they printed it twice. Is that
Well,
two different versions? Is it the US version and the UK version?
I guess I don't know. This one was like, let's see, is there a sticker still on it? No, it was like $15,
Huh.
and it was at a discount store. I don't know if you have Ollie's in Florida or not.
There is Ollie's in Florida, but not in the metro area.
Gotcha. But this, like this much of the book is the comics, and then the rest is like newspaper entries
Hmm.
and magazine entries and little cartoon stuff for like pizzazz and stuff.
Hmm.
But yes,
because I think when I did my checklist based on what was in there, I think I had it all in other formats, whether it was the newspaper strips collection or whether it was Wild Space or whatever.
Gotcha.
But magazines, it's interesting. I
Yeah,
don't remember
and
seeing
then
that
they
there.
had little activity books. So like where you'd cut it out and like, you'd have the X-Wing paper airplane cut out. Um, there's printings of like an Ewok page, like of the village, and then they don't have it in the book, of course, but it would be in the magazine where you can take the stickers and put them wherever. And it was just kind of interesting. I wouldn't have got it unless it was on sale, but I did. So
So the other one has like a crossword puzzle. I think it might have some other things, but there's like a activity page in the Marvel or the annual, which is probably also in that one because you showed me the Halloween page. So
yes.
that makes sense. It's in there too. Yeah.
So let me see. Some of this stuff isn't even Star Wars. Like it's just,
Well, if it's pizzazz, they covered
yeah.
other properties there. So yeah.
Oh, but like, here's a game Matt Wilkins needs to play. Ewoks 100 Steps to Safety. There we go.
Yeah, it's like Ewoks Candyland.
I think it's exactly that. It was for the 100th issue. Yep, Return of the Jedi number 100. But they had that in like coloring pages, like Chief Chirpa.
You should bust out the crayons and just color in the comic book.
And then they had all of the covers.
Nice. Yeah. Star Wars Weekly. Yeah, all that stuff is in Wild Space.
Okay. And it had like, did it have the collected cards?
No, I don't think so.
We'll have to maybe do just one stream where we compare and see.
I think if it doesn't have a story in there, like it doesn't have an actual EU story, I wasn't worried about it.
I gotcha. So you didn't want to have the collectible coloring pages of the Ewok?
Well, I wasn't gonna pay $75 when it came out retail. I mean, now if it's on clearance, it's another story. It's kind of neat to have that retro stuff, but
yeah,
I value my shelf space as it is. So it's like I just want to devote the space to EU stories. If it has extra stuff, I don't really care about it so much.
Yeah. So I have number 2 of the omnibus for the original Marvel run, and they had number 3, and so this one has the rest of the run, along with Annual 3, Return of the Jedi, and then Pizzazz 1 through 16, basically all the stuff that I have in that UK comic. Um, and then
It doesn't have 108 though, right?
no, it
Yeah.
does not.
Okay.
And so sadly, I might have to
Well,
sell this to get the other
it
one.
it would have it if 108 had come out by that time. But
Yeah. This one is sealed as well. And so I got a pretty good steal of a deal for sealed ones. But and then they threw this in for free, and it was the fiction collection from Star Wars Insider.
that's neat.
Um, I kind of like the format of this one better. Um, have you looked at these before?
Yeah, I have both of them. I think
Okay.
the font, the actual text font, is a little bit small, and
Yeah.
it's slightly smaller than the magazine, it seems. But it's
Mm.
good to have all those stories in one place so that you don't have to necessarily collect the insider material, because
Right.
those magazines are hard to come by, and it's awkward having a ton of like old magazines on your shelf. I'd rather have it in hardcover like that.
Yeah, I do like this. This was the last of their the ones that they had the rights to. Is that right?
Yeah, well, it's only the ones that were when it was Titan. So
Okay.
nothing before that. So it doesn't have things like the Clone Wars Intermezzo, the MedStar one, because that was prior to Titan, I believe. It wasn't Wizards of the Coast, but like the Star Wars Insider publishing license had transferred multiple times over its lifetime. But those stories that you have, volumes 1 and 2, are only specifically when they were under Titan.
Gotcha. Where did I put volume 1? I had it somewhere. I'll have to find it. I'll have to when school's out, I'm gonna have to organize all my bookshelves, and because I have five five bookshelves. They're
Mm-hmm.
not all Star Wars, but I've got like some Lord of the Rings and some Star Trek, and then I have like I've got my EU ones here and here, and then I have like the story ones there, and then over on that side, I've got the comic books and source books, and then
Mm-hmm.
like supernatural encounters,
Yeah.
um, different things like that, and then Dune as well. But
Yeah. The shelves behind me only go up to like Return of the Jedi.
oh,
Um,
really?
yeah. And then everything after Return of the Jedi is in the other room.
Gotcha. What is the like your white whale of collecting the Star Wars stuff? Like, what's that one piece that you're like constantly searching for, or have you already found it?
I mean, I there's always stuff to collect, but I don't think there's anything necessarily that I'm looking for at this
Okay.
time. I'm pretty happy with how the collection is now. Um, I really like the displays. You know, the displays don't come up very often, but
Hmm.
when they do, if I could get it for a good price, like shipping that stuff's a little bit complicated,
Yeah.
and the condition is variable because they're so old. Like a lot of them are from the Bantam era, they're from the 90s. Like who knows where that stuff has been stored over the years.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'll have molds or mildew or on it. You know, I
Right.
don't want anything that's not in good condition.
Yeah.
But I think my favorite one is the Young Jedi Knights book display. And that
Ooh.
one's really cool because it has extra artwork of the TIE fighter pilot from the very first Young Jedi Knights book, Heirs of the Force, that isn't on the cover. So stuff like that just has extra artwork, or some of the displays have artwork from other books, like I think it's Courtship of Princess Leia has a picture of Leia, but it's not from that book. It's like from one of the Zahn books or whatever. And just the choice of like the colors and the way it's presented is always really neat.
I'm trying to find the Young Jedi Knights one that you were talking about. I'm sure it's not even on Google.
What, the display or just
The
the regular
display,
stuff?
like the of Coral.
Yeah, I've never seen it. I mean, I've seen several for sale, but I haven't seen. These are like extra like side components that connect
Ah,
to the display, and
yeah.
it makes for a bigger picture, a bigger presentation than you're normally used to. And I haven't seen it with those extra side pieces before.
Oh,
So I'll show it off on my channel. I've been meaning to do a video just showing off. I think I've showed off a couple displays, but I got to show this one because I think Christopher Nelson has one, but I haven't really seen those components included in the ones that people have shown off, or just the ones I've seen for sale recently.
okay.
But even the normal display is really neat because it has like the Jedi Temple and
Mhm.
all that stuff. So that is one I specifically remember when I was a kid. There was a bookstore that had it. They had like one of the X-wing book displays, and then they had the Young Jedi Knights.
Nice. It's really neat. I don't remember any like any book releases aside from the KOTOR Rebellion two-sided, the flip comic number 0. But
I remember when they released the last couple Bantam books. And
really,
yeah, like, you go to the mall on release day or release weekend or whatever, and they'd have the display up. I remember specifically the Bounty Hunter Wars, which that trilogy wasn't any good, but it was exciting to go to Walden Books or wherever it was, see the display, see latest release, and it was hard merchandise or whenever the last. I remember specifically hard merchandise. I remember iJedi when that was released.
okay.
A couple others like Rebel Dawn, but that was when you had to save up. Like, I had to save up my allowance money to buy this stuff. So
Yeah.
I couldn't get every single one, but I remember some specific releases, like going on the actual weekend, seeing the display and picking up the latest book. That was fun.
Nice. You said iJedi, that you remember that. I think iJedi came out the year that I was born.
Mm.
I'm like, goodness. But yeah. Did you see? Do you keep up with Screen Rant, the website?
I don't keep up with it. I've seen some articles there before, but I think if I know what you're talking about, there was an article about the expanded universe recently.
Yes, yes. What did you think about that?
I didn't read it. I just saw it in passing, but it seems like they've changed their tone as it relates to the expanded universe, that they used to be super hostile to it, but now they seem like it was something like the EU, they should explore the EU and go back to like creating EU stories now.
So yes, so I think there was Marvel, the superhero part of Marvel. They had a ongoing series. Well, they actually had it a while back ago. It was called Marvel Ultimates, and it had like the Ultimate Spider-Man, the Ultimate X-Men, and like all the characters, but that was a separate timeline than their main timeline. I guess recently they started bringing it back again,
Mm.
or they have this other timeline that's completely separate from the main timeline. And so they start off talking about that in the article. And then they say, that works great here. Why don't you do it with Star Wars? And it was just kind of, I don't know, it was kind of refreshing to see.
Well, that's just what we've been asking for 10 years now. No
Yeah,
big deal.
they're
I'm
like,
glad
oh,
I'm glad they're finally realizing our position
yes.
after going after us for so many years, because it seems like they've been very hostile
Which,
in the
yeah,
past.
I feel like in the past few years they've kind of started doing comparison stuff with the EU, like Book of Boba Fett will come out, and then they'll be like, "Well, you didn't know about this book that came out in Bounty Hunter Wars or whatever,"
Mhm.
or they'll bring up something, and then they'll go, "Hey, there was actually this book. You probably don't know about it," and they'll have like a screenshot of, like Luke or something when he's got his hair slicked back, and they're like, "This is different." Um, but yeah, it was kind of nice. It was passed around a lot on Facebook and all sorts of things.
Hmm.
But where do you think um, that they should go if they did continue it only in comic books? Because that's what they were talking about in there. They were saying Marvel's doing it with their superhero stuff with their comics. Why shouldn't they do it with Star Wars in the comics? So that kind of made me go, oh, comic books. If we just got a continuation there, what what's something you would like to see?
Specifically in comic books, well, I think they could do it any number of ways. Like comic books would just be one possibility. Dark Horse got the Star Wars license to do junior grade comics now, but they could just as easily just do the Legends comics if
Right.
they wanted to. They could change that. The problem is the EU, the expanded universe, Legends, whatever you want to call it, was off limits by Lucasfilm licensing.
Right.
It's pretty obvious that they're not allowed to do Legends. I think when Marvel 108 was done, like they had to beg to actually get permission to do that, and they wanted to do more after Marvel 108 was done. They really wanted to open the, take the rules off the table that they were constrained by with the new canon, because they have to tiptoe around these new stories, these movies that they have in production that may or may not actually come to pass, come to completion. They have all these TV shows that they can't override with their novels and their comics. I
Right.
mean, it's a headache to have to deal with that. Whereas they could just as easily do the expanded universe stories. They know what the established canon is. I mean, you even have a holocron database to help you out if you have any questions or need answers on what happens in what era. That would be a much easier project to work on, to write stories. Now, what era would I want EU comics to explore if they had permission to do that? I mean, I would prefer if they did post Fate of the Jedi, post Crucible.
Okay.
But they could really do any era. I mean, they could do Old Republic. They could do, Dark Times. I think there's still room to do more stories in that 19-year gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope.
Ooh, yeah.
They could do like an anthology, like Tales type of story that's within canon and isn't silly like the Tales stories were, but they could, tell minor stories in a lot of different eras. I think that would work well. But the key is to get permission.
Right.
And I don't think the current leadership that's at Lucasfilm and at Lucasfilm Licensing wants to do expanded universe at this time.
I gotcha. I think so too, based on like what Marvel has said and then Del Rey has said. And I'm sure just, the fact that we don't have it yet because, Marvel and, whatever book publishing they have, they're all about pumping out those stories that aren't canon.
I
Like
think
there's
they've slowed down significantly. I think the Zahn books sell, but in terms of publishing, like the Del Rey books, they've decided to do more Essential Legends collections and doing audiobooks, unabridged audiobooks that they haven't done previously for the expanded universe. I think, at the very beginning when they did A New Dawn and like the Aftermath trilogy and that, they had an idea that they were going to create as many books as the EU had, but I don't think that's really came to pass. I think they've they've created some books, but the ones that have sold, the ones that have been successful, are mainly the Thrawn, Timothy Zahn new trilogies that he's done.
That's interesting. I was mainly talking about like their other IPs. So like Marvel, they've got young adults Marvel, like Black Panther book series, or the different characters. They're not canon to their movie universe. I see them all over the libraries at where I work. And so it's just all these directed to teens, kids, whatever. They're just pumping out whatever. But for some reason, Lucasfilm's just like, nah.
Well, the kids don't seem to be interested in Star Wars anymore.
Right.
I mean, take, for example, I'm very into the Star Wars Unlimited card game, and that demographic skews super old for a card game, right? That's not super healthy. I mean, it's the Fantasy Flight has the Star Wars card game license. I think they have the RPG license as well, but they're just not doing anything on the RPG front. They put out was the Force Awakens introductory game back 10 years ago when the first film came out. And aside from that introductory game, there was nothing else. And now they're just reprinting the same old source books and game modules that they did before. Hey, Titus, I see Titus is in the comments there. But with this card game, the cards that are successful are like the original trilogy stuff. They've printed cards for the sequel trilogy, the Admiral Holdo and Rose Tico and that. And if you look at the price guide for the showcase cards, which are the premium cards in that game, the lowest price cards are the sequel cards, very curiously. So that stuff isn't popular with the audience, which skews super old. They want the old original trilogy stuff. And I think the expanded universe stuff would be very successful too if they decided to make cards for that. And just in this last set, they came out with a K-Wing card, which isn't in the new canon, by the way. So that could
card.
Yeah, and people are speculating with the next set, which is called Legends of the Force. People are thinking, oh, that moniker is a callback to the expanded universe Legends. So a lot of people are speculating, oh, they might do Darth Revan. There might be a whole lot of like Knights of the Old Republic, Sith and Jedi cards. That would be really cool, and people are really excited about that. So I'm like 90% sure now that the next set is going to be at least heavily focused on Knights of the Old Republic, Dark Forces, Kyle Katarn, some of the established EU characters that are recognizable to a Star Wars fan base that isn't super focused on the books and the comics, but at least would recognize some of those characters. So we'll see how if that comes to pass, we'll see how it goes.
It's interesting how they know where the money's at, and that's in Legends, it seems like, because the one of the app games, Galaxy of Adventure, I think is maybe what it's called. But basically it's like, I'm sure 20 years ago it would have been a card game, but now it's an app that you can fight people online and everything. But they have KOTOR characters. I think Mara Jade's in there too, and there might be some legacy characters, maybe. I don't know.
And is that a game that's being produced now, or is this something a couple years ago?
Let me see what it's called. I think it's like the only mobile Star Wars game that's like actually like profitable, I guess. I think.
That's interesting. I wonder when they first started putting out the EU characters, the Mara Jades and that, because it seems only recently, and you see this on the action figure front as well, like the Black Series, they just came out with the Prince Chizor Black Series, and a couple more. You see more and more EU Black Series action figures, whereas before, when they used to do those fan votes years and years ago, they almost sabotaged
They
the
did.
EU
Yeah.
choices because we went out and we voted for the EU characters, and they're like, oh no, we have to throw that poll out because these EU fans they connived and like did this whole
We need
conspiracy to vote
Sabine
for
and
their
Rex.
right. Yeah, we need some some Rostico character, or
Yes.
their own creation, because they're just so embarrassed by the EU, like their stuff isn't successful,
Right.
and people don't want it.
Yeah. So it's called Galaxy of Heroes. It came out 8 years ago. And from what it sounds like, it's still going strong. It's an RPG style combat. And like you kind of build up your deck, I guess, of characters, and then they play against other characters. And so it might have been a little bit after episode 9 came out when they started adding KOTOR characters.
Okay.
Because they had I think when this game came out, they had, it would have came out around the time of The Force Awakens. They had like stats of powers for different characters, and all of like Rey and Kylo Ren were like so high on the list, and people are like, what the heck is this? Darth Vader or Anakin is clearly more powerful than them. Like, what are you doing? We know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You're trying to build up your brand.
Right.
And so, they'll add characters for whatever show, or they'll put a new Obi-Wan skin because he's in a show or whatever it is. But they've really been pushing like the Legends stuff.
That's good.
The Darth Bane design is horrible. It's the TCW design. But other than that, it's kind of cool seeing that stuff pushed.
Yeah, it's kind of weird because like I said, on the Marvel Comics front, they said they wanted to do more Legends, but they just weren't allowed to. The permissions weren't there. And I haven't heard from Del Rey recently. Like, they don't seem to do as many interviews as they did back in years past when they were coming out with expanded universe books. But everybody's interested in that High Republic thing. I don't know if that's still going on.
It's about to conclude. I think the last book just came out.
Okay.
For like the whole thing, like they're done.
Yeah.
I think with the
Acolyte, that was a multimedia project, right? They had High Republic Comics, I think, in some instances.
Yes. So they had, the only thing they didn't have was games. Technically, they had a TV show with the Acolyte, which actually there are some books that they're releasing with that. I think there's 2 books that they have. But of course, a canceled season 2. And so that'll just sizzle out, I think. But yeah, I think they're done with High Republic.
I would definitely want a change of authors, though, because they say, you hear a lot of talk about how fans don't necessarily want Disney to write the expanded universe, which they necessarily wouldn't do because it's a licensing agreement. So the EU stories were always created either through Del Rey, through Dark Horse, or if you take video games, LucasArts, right?
Right.
So they weren't necessarily created by Kathleen Kennedy, or they wouldn't be if they had permission to do that. So I don't think you necessarily need to worry about that, but you don't, at the same time, you don't want High Republic authors writing Sword of the Jedi, right? I don't know if Christy Golden's still writing new canon.
I think she wrote the last High Republic novel, I think. Let me check.
Well, if she is, I don't know, maybe you have somebody different in charge of that.
The book that she never wrote, right? No.
Well, I think at least book 1 is written, and there's an outline of what they were going to do with Sword of the Jedi. but anybody could go off of that outline and finish off the trilogy.
Yeah. There is a guy that does some of the new canon that I wouldn't like. I actually kind of enjoy if he did Legends. His
Is it
Charles. Yeah,
Charles
yeah,
Soule?
yeah.
Yeah, his
I
stuff
like.
has been okay. I think you definitely have to familiarize him with the way the expanded universe work. Now, I'm sure he's read some of the stuff. Like, you don't write Star Wars now having not read anything in the past.
Yeah,
I'm sure they're at least vaguely familiar with the stuff that had come out, but you
I'm
don't want them pushing their ideologies in these books and these comics, though.
I feel like it's mainly the young adult stuff that
Mm-hmm.
gets pushed a lot because it's more feelings. Let's see. I'm trying to see. Let me just look up Christine Golding.
You mentioned the young adult novels. Have you seen the Resistance cartoon by chance?
No, I've not.
So that's meant for kids. That's like a cartoon series that's
Okay.
directed to younger viewers, like even younger than the Clone Wars audience.
Yeah.
But the main character in that is very weird. Like, he really cares about what everybody thinks of him. And when I was watching the first couple episodes, I didn't watch the entire thing, but I thought to myself, I probably wouldn't want my kid watching this show because it's a bad example, right? The main character is just like super concerned about what everybody thinks of him and the way he, messes up and flying a starfighter or whatever. Like, that's just a bad example to go off of. I wouldn't like. What is this guy's problem? Like, he has a mental disorder, I would think.
I don't know. I've not watched that yet. I let's see.
Well, he's like a pilot that joins
Yes.
the Resistance, but he has to prove himself. And when he joins up, there's some people that kind of go hard on him, like they don't treat him right, and he compartmentalizes it and just like thinks, oh, he's not good enough or whatever. And I guess it's overcoming self-doubt or whatever, but it's taken to an extreme. I think that it's just, I wouldn't even want somebody even watching this because I think it would just cause problems.
Yeah, I wonder how that is. I've only watched I try to stay away from the sequels, or at least with like I'll watch the shows with Peyton and Lydia. But okay, so I showed Lydia the sequels and she hated them. And I was like, all right, I'm glad I married you. And like she just watched them once and she already had the whole ideas of how like I feel about them, except she just doesn't care as much as me. But to go back to Christine Golding, her last entry to Star Wars was in 2020. So I was mistaken. I was thinking of Claudia Gray, and she's a really famous new canon author. She does High Republic, and I wouldn't mind if she wrote for Legends, but
I've heard some mixed things about Claudia Gray. I'm not so sure. But
I've only read one book, I think. No, two books that she had. But those were like the first two books that she wrote.
And mixed is putting it politely.
I haven't read any High Republic or nothing. Well, I tried to read a comic. I just couldn't get into it. I was expecting KOTOR. And what was I saying? Oh, I try to explain like to Peyton whenever I show her Star Wars stuff. Like, the sequels don't exist. She doesn't know they exist. I'm not gonna tell her.
Hmm.
When she asks what happens to Luke after whatever, oh, it's in these books right here.
Yeah, just read the Legacy comics. I mean,
Yeah. I think now she's read some comics. I'd have them on my Kindle, and she like on road trips, like if she forgot to bring her Switch or something, she'd be like, "Can I read something?" And so like I've just got stored, the Comixology, or I've bought them and stuff.
mhm.
Just read through them. Like she read a lot of the classic Star Wars, some of the Thrawn trilogy. Yeah, just different things.
Mhm.
I'm like, ha ha ha. Or anytime she reads or sees anything with Jaina, she'll be like, because we named her, our
Her
baby
sister,
Jaina. Her
sister's
sister's name.
yeah,
She's
yeah.
like, is that what? Or like, I'll have a video and they'll say, oh yes, like Jaina Solo, and she goes, Jaina. Or I'll listen to the audiobook and doing the dishes, and Lydia will be like, that's weird hearing someone else say that name.
Well,
Because yeah, I was
I
like, what?
mean, she isn't the only person named after Jaina Solo. I think
Yeah,
it was a common name to name fans name their daughters after Jaina a lot.
yeah,
It's quite a frequent occurrence.
yeah. Which I'm sure they'd be older now because
Mhm.
yeah, but yeah. Anyway, we made it. We went an hour. Is there anything else you'd want to talk about, or you
I
said
could
you?
I
What's
could
that?
go on and on about Star Wars Unlimited and the latest set. I was just trying to put together the Grand Admiral Thrawn deck. There's a new Grand Admiral Thrawn leader in the Jump to Lightspeed set, but
Is it Canon Thrawn design?
unfortunately, it's the new
Okay.
canon Thrawn. But like I said, if the next set is expanded universe, then maybe not. It's some mixture like the RPGs, but
Well, I have to red out his eyes, like just to
yeah,
make
I
it
mean,
clear.
in some drawings, like you can't really tell if it's
Yeah.
has pupils, and there are. If you look at the original Essential Guide to Characters, I mean, there are drawings of Thrawn even in the old canon where he has pupils. So,
What breaks canon? See, it was
well,
planned the
people
whole way.
just people just forget that. I was saying that from the first time. Like Thrawn did have pupils in certain renderings in
What
the original.
what book? What book did you say it was? Essential Guide to
I
Characters.
Yeah, I think it's the Essential Guide to Characters. I might even have it too if you can't find it.
I actually have two copies of them. The
Mm,
first one, let's see, Thrawn. Is it Grand Admiral Thrawn or just?
it is, but I think it's under T. Don't ask me
Oh,
how I memorized that. Like I know the
I
order
don't.
of the characters.
I asked you, and then I was like, okay, what? I was like, that's a loaded question to ask someone. Why'd you ask that? And then you answered, and I was like, okay.
Shows you how committed to memory I have to this stuff.
Okay, I have Captain Pilion. Grand Moff Tarkin.
You're close.
Almost. Nomi Sunrider. Was Grand Admiral Thrawn.
Yeah. Now it's not the first picture. It's the picture I think on the second page.
He does.
Yeah, and then there's another picture of him on the next page, I think.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so he has pupils in both of those. So
Wow.
what a handsome chap.
Yeah. He looks nothing like he does in New Canon.
Well, I mean that's the OG Thrawn. You don't get any
Yeah.
much older than that. That's even before the Heir to the Empire Dark Horse comics, I think.
Wow. Does the book mention? I can't remember.
It
But
just says he has red eyes. Like I don't think it
So
says he has
do you
pupils.
think it was the comic book adaptation that gave him the red solid eyes?
Probably.
Hmm.
Which
Okay.
I don't think the artwork in those comics are generally very good.
Mm.
I always thought that those were cheap imitations because back in the day, people used to read those comics instead of reading the novels,
Yeah.
and they missed certain things in there, which it's kind of lazy in my opinion. Let's just read the novel. That's the original story. You don't need a cheap knockoff comic.
Yeah.
So it's like listening to the abridged audio and thinking you read the book, right?
Yeah. I can't wait for them to do an unabridged Labyrinth of Evil because they only have the abridged, and I feel like I missed so much because
Yeah.
I'm watching the Fanalysis, so like the versus guys. They're doing well. They started doing reviews again, like in depth. Like we're gonna talk about 5 chapters today. 3 hours later, all right, let's move.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went back and watched like Labyrinth of Evil, part one of three. And so I'm like, oh man, I am missing so much here. Um, but I'll go back to it whenever they release it.
That's quite possibly one of the best novels. I think it's definitely in the top 10. Labyrinth of Evil is.
Um, I've heard so many people say Revenge of the Sith is the best novel, and I thought they were just being like, "Oh, it's because it's the movie or whatever." You
No,
don't think it's the best, or you think it
no,
is?
I think it is one of the best. It's
Okay.
arguably. I mean, if you saw the movie, if you had the choice between seeing the movie or reading the book, I would have read the book.
Me too. And like I grew up on that one, and I was like when it starts, it doesn't start a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It starts off like this story was a long time ago, and there's nothing you can do to change it. And I'm
Right.
just like, what? What is this?
This is a tragedy about a fallen hero, and there's nothing you can do about it or
You
something. It's
can't
like, yeah,
change it.
yeah, it can't be undone.
And the whole like dragon analogy that was throughout the whole book, I had been spoiled about because I saw it was a compilation of it all together in just a video with images and stuff and good voiceover and music. But just hearing it in the little bits and pieces, and then the final, there was no dragon at all. It was yourself. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, but even just when they go after Palpatine, like the amount of additions and details that
This
are just
Anakin
missing for the
Skywalker.
movie, but it would have made the movie so much better if you
Oh my
included
gosh.
that.
Yeah. I
You just
want
get a cheap knockoff if you just watch the movie. Not that
it's
the
like
movie's bad, but
yeah.
it's just it doesn't do it justice.
It's like the comic book adaptation of the Thrawn trilogy. Like
Exactly. Maybe even worse. Maybe even worse because that is a long book, Revenge of the Sith, man.
I read it in like a
There's
week. Like every moment. Like I remember like every second of it. Like we could do a review right now. Like
right.
I just sat there and was like, because usually I'll do things while I'm, listening to them, but I would just sit there and go, my gosh, what
Yeah.
is this? And then, yeah, because I did Labyrinth of Evil, Sith, and then now I'm on Rise of Darth Vader. But that one's a little slow because it's, because you get this.
Well, compared to the other two,
Yeah,
I think Rise of Darth Vader is very good too,
hmm.
but it's just not quite on the level of Revenge of the Sith and Labyrinth of Evil.
Oh yeah. Um, I'm really looking forward to Traitor in New Jedi Order now because of Matthew Stover. Um, because I heard that one's great. Um,
I don't think it's his best,
okay.
but it's a pivotal point in the New Jedi Order. There's not a lot of action though. It's kind of like his internal thoughts and his reflections on what happened, and his ideas going forward on what he should do.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's different. It's different. It's not an action novel by any means.
That's fine. I actually kind of like I heard that it's kind of like some of the Dune books, how it's just like the thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
But and I enjoy those. Occasionally I'll be like having a deep thought and then I'll be like, why am I thinking this about this certain way? And then I'll be like, oh, this was from this book or like this phrase or something. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm looking forward to that one, wherever it is on the shelf.
Yeah, a lot of people say that novel's their favorite as well. I can't say that I'd say the same, but I understand why people like it.
I gotcha. What would you say is the best Matthew Stover book?
I'd probably say Revenge of the Sith.
Okay.
I mean, arguably that's the best book. My favorite book is Yoda Dark Rendezvous. Ooh, and I think like A.C. Crispin, for me, I think her trilogy's possibly the best trilogy. I don't know. There's a lot of good books out there. It's hard to rate them, but
they'd make great films, wouldn't they, if they decided to adapt them? But
I don't know if I'd want them adapted, but they're certainly, they laid the groundwork for good storytelling and just the continuation and development of the EU, which they could make films, TV shows, anything, anything they want. It's a rich universe that they could keep going if they wanted to.
For sure. How would you rank Matthew Stover's like entries to the EU? So like you got Sith as the top and Traitors.
I'd have to have a list of all of his books. So he wrote Shatterpoint and
Mindor.
What else? Mindor, yeah.
Traitor and Sith, I believe.
So Sith is way at the top. Then I'd say either Shatterpoint or Mindor.
Okay.
Then Traitor.
All right.
But that's just me. So
no, yeah. Nice. I don't think there are any other ones. I
feel like I'm missing something, but
I mean, me too. But like, I'll think of a book and then I'm like, oh no, that was Lucino that wrote that one. So like, I was thinking, oh, Cloak of Deception, but that was a Lucino book, which is kind of interesting. Well, it honestly, it does make sense why they didn't have Lucino write Revenge of the Sith, because he had the prequel and sequel novel to it.
Mm-hmm. No, it's just those four.
Just those four?
Yeah.
But man, he knocked it out of the park with Sith.
I mean, all those are very impactful, but yeah, I think Sith is the best.
He was supposed to do oh, Brendan's in the chat. Hello.
Just woke up.
Good morning.
It's time to go to sleep.
He was supposed to write Republic Commando.
Was he? I forget.
Yeah, but then I think he got sick.
See, I thought that was a Karen Traviss project.
After the whole Dave Filoni thing happened.
See the super sub that was supposed to come in and do it, finish it off.
I think so. And then because he has something, I don't remember. You were a lightweight tonight. You can still get on. The link's open.
Yeah.
Sure Scott wants to stay up all night.
We were going to end it at an hour, but now we're almost at an hour and 20. So how's the hall looking? You have to go back and watch.
Yeah.
Brennan. He's not going to show it off again.
All right. Anyway, here we go.
No.
Every time.
20 minutes later. I have something to show off real quick.
All right.
This is cool. Check out this binder, Star Wars
Whoa.
Unlimited binder.
Let me get
You
you
can
full
see,
screen.
yeah, you can see if you look carefully. There's Darth Vader inside.
sorry.
Nope.
How do we do this? How do I select?
Can you see Darth Vader inside the TIE fighter? He's there. If you look
Trying to
close,
get rid of me.
I don't know. I think that's pretty cool.
That is really cool. If I was in grade school still, that would be the pride of my life.
Oh, as a notebook? Yeah. This is
As a notebook.
This
Oh,
is
is that a card one? Oh,
card
okay.
binder. Yeah, I didn't fill it up. I just finished my Clone Wars Topps collection. Was putting them all in order here.
Ooh, nice. Good old Clone Wars.
So you have some interesting. They have Jar Jar's. I'm not sure if it's Jar Jar's girlfriend or what.
One night stand.
Very possibly. But a lot of interesting characters here.
Brendan, do you know the relationship between Jar Jar Binks and the his lady?
Trying to find it. Oh, here it is. So Jar Jar has two girlfriends, but I think this was take it out of the sleeve.
Oh, I remember. Yes, she was in the Blue Shadow Virus episodes. She was the farmer. I don't know if there was any relation.
She kind of looks. She looks like a Gungan, though, right? She is a Gungan.
Yes, I think so. I mean, the Gungans go from looking like that to Boss Nass, like
Peppy Bow. She's a farmer.
Peppy Bow.
But
okay.
She gets power +3 for each of your destroyed bases. So
that's the early TCW girlfriend. Oh yes, because he goes around.
Mm-hmm. But yes, I have how many cards are in the set?
There's variations.
140.
Nice.
And, they first started making prestige cards. I pulled this Annihilator Superstar Destroyer.
Ooh. Nice.
It's it says it's Tag's flagship, General Tag. But yeah,
that's nice. How long have you been collecting cards?
I've been collecting ever since the Decipher Star Wars CCG in 90. I think I was in 4th or 5th grade. So when was that? 97?
Okay.
I want to say. But for a while, they didn't have a Star Wars card game. I mean, technically, when Fantasy Flight picked up the license, they did the LCG, but that was a mix of like new canon and old.
Okay.
And then they just came out with Star Wars Unlimited last year, 2024.
All right. I remember, yeah, that one coming out. I feel personally attacked.
I mean, what's wrong with being Jar Jar's girlfriend?
Yeah, you got a problem with that, Brendan? You're gonna come at me like that and not come on the stream because you're too tired?
No, he's just gonna talk a lot of crap in the chat.
Oh my gosh. Jar Jar is a great sugar daddy. He got kicked out and banished.
Yes, but he came back as a senator, right? He's a senator's deputy.
Is he Padme's sugar daddy?
I think so.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, thank you everyone for watching.
On that note, see you next time.
See you next time. Make sure to subscribe to Scott too. Don't subscribe to Brendan.
No, if you're subscribed to Brennan, unsubscribe.
Yeah. Is that canon? It's my canon. I create the canon. You see, George Lucas and I were buddies. We talked on the plane once. No. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the haul.
Next time, tune in next time where we cover Shadows of the Empire Evolution.
Yes, specifically your favorite panel of all of them. But good night, everybody.